I come to you this morning in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. So just as a general warning, the first part of this sermon should definitely be taken tongue firmly in cheek, okay? So as not to offend. Now, many of you, if you've been attending any of the quiet days, or you have attended Bible studies, or just kind of been around me and heard some of my story, you know that in college I experienced what I believe was a very powerful conversion experience. And, if I were a lot more Protestant, it would be the I got saved moment. If it was the lot more Catholic, it would be the I realized what had already been present moment. And it changed me for the rest of my life in how I express my faith. But I experienced another powerful conversion experience in my first semester and first few weeks of college. You see, growing up in South Florida, I wore the colors orange and green. You know where this is going. For I was firmly and decidedly a fan of the Miami Hurricanes. And of course I went to Florida State University and then stood there in the Doak Campbell Stadium, my first football game, with 43,000 people cheering, wearing the same colors. And, to quote what William might say would be our more Protestant friends, like, I saw the light. I felt the breakers upon me, as they would say. And in that moment, I became a fan and identified myself with that school. And what impressed me the most was I went to the bookstore, which was still open after the game, and you could purchase literally anything that you can think of with the logo and the colors of the school. I mean, a pencil, a notebook, a t-shirt, a toilet seat, you can have with the logo of your school. So why do I say this is tongue-in-cheek? It's because, for some people, sports is religion. For some people, sports is a religion, and the idea that a person would switch allegiances from one to another team is just blasphemy. But it made me think, though, about just how commercialized Christianity has become. I mean, think about this for a minute. Just as I said that you can purchase anything with the logo of your favorite team, you can go into a Christian bookstore or look online, and you can find pretty much anything with your chosen religious symbol. You could be wearing a hat with a cross on it, a t-shirt with the Virgin Mary on it, socks that have a scallop shell for baptism, and it goes on and on and on. Now, in and of itself, this isn't bad, because I think it's wonderful for us to celebrate our Christian identity and to let fellow believers know we are in solidarity with one another. And it's also good to let other people know that we're Christian. Ask me about it, because I want to evangelize to you. But there's an inherent danger, though, in just how commercialized we've become. Because too often, our identity as a Christian is being tied to what we wear and how we look versus what we're actually doing. Now, in today's gospel, Jesus has washed the feet of his disciples at the Last Supper, and Judas is now leaving the room to go do what Jesus said, go do what you have to do. And there's this kind of confusing exchange that goes on with Jesus saying, now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God will glorify him and glorify him again, etc., etc. And what's happening there is to say that when Judas decides to go and leave the supper and leave the disciples and leave the communion and presence of Christ, that's the moment. We're committed now. This end is not going to be a pleasant one. And so Jesus, in talking with his disciples, says, we're coming to it now. Do you feel it? Do you hear it? Do you understand it? This change that I've been preaching about, this tragedy that's going to occur, is going to happen. I'm not going to be with you for much longer. And so in that moment, what would Jesus want to tell his disciples? Would he want to tell them some tremendous theological secret? No. He tells them, I'm giving you a commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. Because if you love one another as I have loved you, that is how people will know that you're my disciples, that you're my students, my followers. Now notice what he didn't say. He didn't say they will know that you're my disciples by what you wear, or they will know that you are my disciples by what you say, even though people are known as Christians by proclaiming the gospel. He said, people will know that you are my disciples if you love each other the same way that I have demonstrated love to you. So it begs the question, how did Jesus love his disciples? So it made me think about that, and there's a wonderful section in the commentary by William Barclay, which we read a lot here in our parish, that he brings up 2 points about how Jesus loved his disciples. The first one is he loved them selflessly. What does it mean to love someone selflessly? It means that when we love someone, we do it because we love them, not because we expect something in return. You know, as the old saying goes for married couples, don't do the dishes expecting a thank you. I've never gotten that thank you. I'm kidding. We do not do things so that other people may gush over us and repay us at a later time. We don't do that. That's not selfless. Selfless love is doing something for someone and not expecting anything in return. In fact, we're to hope that they don't repay it, because Jesus says that is one of the greatest graces, is you do something for somebody that they can't even pay you back. And so how was Jesus selfless with his disciples? Well, not only was he selfless in teaching them and ministering to them and being present for them, but he will sacrifice everything for them. Jesus gives everything to his disciples, including his own body. The other aspect that Jesus does is he's sacrificial. Well, this one's pretty easy. Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross, but he did more than that. Before his sacrifice on the cross, he gave of his time and energy and wisdom. He left nothing to chance, and instead gave everything of himself for others, especially his disciples. When we love one another sacrificially, it means that we make ourselves uncomfortable. And by that I mean we give of our time, we give of our talent, we give of our treasure, we give of our energy. And that takes something out of us. So when we sacrifice for one another, it means that we're willing to be put out. You know, there was this isn't the best example, but an example of this is if somebody has ever pulled up to you when you're in traffic and is asking for directions, and they go, you know, please lower your window. And they go, how do I get to where I'm going? And you tell them, and they're like, well, can I just follow you? And you go, okay. And then they say this one thing that I notice happened to not just me. Would you mind if I stopped and got gas first? Because now they're putting you out, and you've got to stop and change your routine and change your schedule. You might be late, but this person needs your help. And you got to decide now whether or not when the light turns green you're just going to speed away, or whether or not you're going to help them. Now, of course, we see both selflessness and sacrificial love in our own parish. We see this every time somebody shows up early or stays late to help turn things on and turn things off. We see this whenever a meal is cooked, like our upcoming fish fry on Pentecost. That is a selfless sacrifice by the people who set up and cook, and poor John Yancey has to go catch those fish on his boat. It's so hard, you know. But there's selfless sacrifice everywhere in our parish, and that's why I'm saying this so we can be conscious of it. But I want to give an even bigger example, because we should always be shooting for that next level of selfless, sacrificial love. One of my classmates who lives in League City, Texas, and if you've never heard of it, it's okay. It's outside of Houston. It's a small place, and it's a coastal town, and they were hit by the hurricanes a couple years ago. Now, thankfully, the church only sustained minor damage, some flooding, the carpets were ruined, things like that, but that's what church insurance is for, right? Pay the deductible, get the check, make the repairs. But some of their parishioners weren't as lucky. Some of their parishioners, that water came all the way up to here. And if you've ever been in a house that's been flooded like that, you can't imagine how the water got that high, and you can't imagine what they're going to do now. And so his congregation gathered together and identified the people who needed help, went out and demucked these houses. Now, I have never demucked a house. I don't know how you do it, but it does not sound like a pleasant or attractive proposition for a Saturday morning. Just the word muck, right? And these people selflessly and sacrificially gave of themselves to go do this. Why? Because they were on the same team? No. Because they attend the same church? Maybe. But maybe because they recognized the need that somebody in their community had and said, I want to sacrifice some of my time and energy to go help them. Because maybe that person would do the same for me. And in some cases, they did it for each other. So why is this so important? The church has a lot of fans. Not in here, but, But the church has a lot of fans. We have a lot of people who are willing to put on the t-shirt, put on the bumper sticker on their car, and everything. What the church needs is more followers. Because Jesus Christ didn't call anybody to be a fan. He didn't call for a cheering section. He called for people who were willing to get their hands dirty, to get their feet sore, going out and loving one another. And so what we have to decide as Christians is if we're going to be a fan or if we're going to be a follower. And I'm not saying you can't wear the stuff. I love wearing some of those shirts. But there has to be something deeply behind it as well. And so here's the test that I would like to give as we kind of continually shoot for that higher level of selfless, sacrificial love. Right now it's kind of harder to do because it's summer and, our population dwindles as people go up north and travel. But sometime during the service, look around to the other people within this congregation, some of whom you have known for years, some of whom you have known for months, or weeks, or days, or hours. And ask yourself this question, as I will ask myself this question. If somebody needed selfless, sacrificial love, would I give it to them? Even if I don't know them very well, would I give it to them? Even if I don't like them very much, would I give it to them? Even if Father Alex cut in front of you at line at breakfast last week, would you do it? That's the test. Because Jesus will look at us and say, love one another as I have loved you. And so as you look at that person, as I will look at each one of you, think of the ways in which Christ has loved each one of us sacrificially and selflessly in our life, not just in the crucifixion, but in our daily life. And ask that question. He has reached out to me so that I might reach out to others. And that is my prayer. My prayer is that at the end of the day, when all things are said and done, that our love for one another is greater than anything that we wear or anything that we say. Because if you notice something, fans come and go, right? My team last year didn't do very well, lost a lot of fans. We had a losing season. Everybody's jumping off the boat. If they win again, everybody will come back. See, fans come and go. Followers stay and stick it out. Are we fans or are we followers? Fans love to compete to draw attention to themselves to how great of a fan they are. You ever just turn on a game once in a while? College football is really good about this. Turn it on and watch the people who paint themselves and wear the headgear and do all these other things. And some of them aren't teenagers. Some of them are people in their 60s, no offense to anybody, who get together and write the name of their team on their chest in color, and sometimes it's misspelled. But they compete. Look at me. A follower never points to themselves. They're always pointing to Christ. And I notice that when I say thank you to many people in this parish. I go, thank you for your gift. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your service, for cleaning up, for doing whatever. They say, that's not a big deal, Father Alex. That's not why I'm here, just to be thanked. I'm here for Christ. Are we fans? Or are we followers? Because there's already too many people wearing t-shirts.
Amen.